Okay, imagine a game built on these absolutely soaring ideals of global peace, a title that essentially promised us all a brighter, more heroic future. We are talking, of course, about Overwatch. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to look beyond the vibrant colors and the catchy voice lines because this franchise is a totally fascinating case study in modern gaming. It is a wild story of incredible highs, massive esports ambitions, shifting monetization models, and for sure some serious community turbulence.
So here is our roadmap. We're going to cover 1. The origins of a hero shooter. 2. The Omnic Crisis and the lore. 3. Expanding the roster. 4. The Overwatch League. And finally, 5. Leadership and Overwatch 2. Let's dive in.
Section 1. Origins of a hero shooter, rising from the ashes of Titan.
To really understand where this game came from, we actually have to look back to a canceled, highly secretive MMO project known as Titan. Back in 2013, Titan was completely scrapped, but the team, which was led by director Jeff Kaplan, lead writer Michael Chu, and principal designer Scott Mercer, they didn't just give up. They actually salvaged elements from those ashes and pivoted to build Blizzard's first entirely new franchise since 1996. They entered a totally new arena for them, a team-based multiplayer first-person shooter. But here's a fun fact. Getting that signature, highly polished, slightly cartoonish aesthetic, that required some outside help. Blizzard actually partnered with Rabcat, an Austrian developer primarily known for casino slot machines. Seriously. Turns out the flashy, super engaging mechanics of hitting a jackpot translates surprisingly well to a vibrant hero shooter.
Section 2. The Omnic Crisis and Lore, a world that needs heroes.
When the original game launched in 2016, it didn't actually have a traditional story campaign at all. Instead, Blizzard built this entire universe through transmedia storytelling. We're talking incredibly beautiful animated shorts, digital comics, even fake news reports. And the story goes like this. 60 years in the future, Earth survives the Omnic Crisis, which is this massive global AI robot uprising. To fight back, the UN forms an elite international task force called Overwatch. They win, and that kicks off a golden age of heroism and global peace. But eventually, internal conspiracies and a really tragic headquarters explosion force the UN to legally disband Overwatch via the Petraeus Act. Years later, as a brand new crisis looms, it all culminates with a genetically engineered scientist who, just happens to be a giant talking gorilla with reading glasses, initiating an illegal recall to get the old team back together.
And that brings us to the game's poster character, Tracer, and her absolutely iconic quote, "The world could always use more heroes." You have to remember, in an era dominated by really gritty, highly realistic, and honestly quite cynical war shooters, this bright, cooperative optimism hit players like a breath of fresh air. It instantly connected with millions of people who are just looking for a fundamentally hopeful experience.
Section 3. Expanding the roster, building the perfect team.
Now, a hero shooter literally lives and dies by its characters. And as this game's roster swelled to over 50 unique heroes, those simple classes just weren't enough anymore. Every hero starts in one of 3 core buckets: tanks to absorb damage, damage to lead the offense, and support to heal. But to keep things actually balanced, the developers had to get super granular. They introduced sub-roles to grant highly specific passive abilities. So a tank might actually be a stalwart who resists knockbacks, or a damage character might be a flanker who thrives off health packs. This constant tweaking was a massive, ongoing balancing act driven heavily by real-time player data. And sometimes, that data reveals a really huge problem. During the beta testing for the sequel, developers noticed players just weren't picking the support role. It just wasn't enticing enough. So what do? Well, you build a character specifically designed to make healing incredibly fun and highly mobile. Right before launch, they dropped Kiriko into the roster, injecting massive excitement back into the class and totally shifting the meta dynamics overnight.
Section 4. The Overwatch League, building an esports empire.
With a massively popular game on their hands, Blizzard set their sights on completely transforming competitive gaming. The structure they came up with was totally unprecedented for esports at the time. Instead of typical gaming tournaments with promotion and relegation, Blizzard literally copy-pasted the NFL playbook. They established permanent city-based global franchises, like the London Spitfire and the San Francisco Shock. Players got guaranteed minimum salaries, healthcare, and revenue sharing. Plus, they set up minor league pipelines to scout amateur talent. The whole goal was to attract billionaire sports owners for long-term forever investments.
And the scale of this ambition was just staggering. The prize pool for just the very first season, $3.5 million. That is massive. They secured huge broadcasting deals and filled actual live arenas with screaming fans.
Unfortunately, a really brutal combination of the global pandemic halting live events, losing access to the Chinese market, and a severe decline in owner interest ultimately caused this incredibly ambitious league to fold by the end of 2023.
Section 5. Leadership and Overwatch 2, a changing of the guard.
This era of turbulence brings us to a really massive pivot point in our explainer today, and it revolves around a single, highly persistent question from the community. Why fix what isn't broken? The original game was a massive critical and commercial success, so why on earth replace it with a numbered sequel?
The answer lies in a major shift that is impacting almost every single gamer today. The old model of a one-time premium purchase simply could not fund a live service game indefinitely. Developing new heroes, new maps, and crazy events continuously is wildly expensive. Activision Blizzard felt they needed to transition the franchise to a free-to-play, continuous live service revenue stream. This, theoretically, would allow them to fund that ongoing support.
And let me tell you, the transition was dramatic. The original game was a 6 versus 6 experience with a premium box price and earnable cosmetic loot boxes. Overwatch 2? It shrunk teams down to 5 versus 5, went totally free to play, and introduced the now industry-standard premium battle pass and a direct in-game store.
The friction from players was immediate. In a really rare move for the industry, the sequel auto-updated over the original client, which effectively wiped the 2016 game completely out of existence. You couldn't play it anymore. Add to that the eventual cancellation of a highly anticipated full cooperative story mode due to development hurdles, and the backlash culminated in an overwhelmingly negative user rating when the game launched on Steam.
Right in the middle of this incredibly rocky transition, there was also a major changing of the guard. In April of 2021, Jeff Kaplan departed Blizzard, and Aaron Keller took over as the lead director. Kaplan was widely viewed by the community as the father of the game, so his exit felt incredibly symbolic to the player base during this massive fundamental shift.
For many people, this was a definitive turning point. Community sentiment on platforms like Reddit often echoed this exact feeling, arguing that the game had lost a piece of its soul, and that the two stood for a new monetization strategy rather than a truly new game. It really highlights the incredibly deep friction that occurs when a beloved, self-contained product transforms into a continuously monetized live service platform.
So as games continue to blur the line between these beautiful artistic universes and live service platforms, we are left with a really big question to ponder. Can a game built on the soaring ideals of global harmony actually survive the harsh realities of continuous monetization in the modern gaming industry? Overwatch is still out there fighting that battle, continuously evolving its world. But what does its journey ultimately mean for the next generation of games? Think about that next time you log in.